Hello, my name is Jeff Rolka. I want to thank you for joining us this Saturday. Happens to be morning here. It may be afternoon or evening, or perhaps even in the middle of the night where you are in the world. This is the time that we set aside every week to answer questions and hear from you regarding what's going on with your voices, music-related questions, stuff like that. So the chat is open. I see Market Forces. Hello. Welcome. JC's Radiant Ray. Good day to you as well. And JC's Radiant Ray is also wishing all of you vocalists all around the world a good day as well. Market Forces is saying hello again. Gabriel. Hello. Altug. Hello. Gabriel. Question. Yeah. Very excited. Very excited. I must admit, I use a lot of exclamation points in my correspondence as well. I'm on board with that. Singwise, welcome. That's Karen. That is Karen from Singwise Vocals. Singwise, I think it's singwise.com or singwisevocals.com. Also a YouTuber. Welcome. It's always a pleasure to have you here. Altug, how is my cousin? My cousin, I have to pop this chat out here. I can't look at that. There we go. Cousin Jeff is doing very fine. Thank you very much. I am still weeding out his beard hairs from my piano and my clothing, but otherwise doing very well. Thank you for asking. Deadpan Man, you made it on time. Yeah, you made it. I'm assuming, yay. I thought it said you for a second. I'm like, I'm usually pretty punctual, but yes, welcome. I don't recall your user ID, so thank you for joining us today. Striker, welcome back. I haven't seen you in several weeks. Heidi, hello. Sarah, hello. I don't know if I recognize your user ID from a previous live event either. Welcome. Altug is saying hello to Karen. Remember, folks, you can use that @ Use the @ symbol. I'll put one in the chat here. If you want to talk to one another. There we go. Just, drop that in front. I'm sure I'm explaining something that is entirely obvious to whatever. But anyways, the old @ symbol, and it will direct it. I'll scan it and then kind of just move on. You're very welcome, Sarah, and thank you for saying as much. I really appreciate it. I hope you're having a good time with them. Bishy, J Official, can one achieve perfect singing technique, or is it something unattainable? Is perfection impossible? Well, that's a very interesting question that very quickly gets into the philosophical nature of things. I mean, one might ask, what is perfect in a system that is constantly in flux? I'm reminded. I should put this on my Amazon influencer page. There's a book that was very influential to me, and some would, take it in the way that it's intended, which is, I am one who thinks that taking a look at things from different angles can help us understand what might work best for us, what might really help us achieve our goals. And so I'm very fond of the book Illusions by Richard Bach. Again, just take it for what it's worth. I know it's a bit like oovy groovy and all that kind of stuff, but there's lots of things in there that think about things. And at one point in the book, Donald Shimoda says to Richard Bach, what is perfect? Is the sky perfect? And Richard says, well, yeah. And how can that be when it's constantly changing? Now our voices aren't constantly changing, but they're adapting slowly from one register to the next to the next. And as we go through those, there will be efficient uses of the voice that are more optimized than others. So, if there is perfection, it would largely, I think, you have to also determine what is it to be perfect. Is it a subjective evaluation? In other words, people are going to sing and then evaluate it, or is it objective? If it's objective, then does that then mean that it's the most efficient use of the voice or the most beautiful, which may not be the most efficient? Where do we even? I don't think you meant for that question to be quite so complicated, but I think that we can approach, in my take on things, if you're interested in my opinion on this, is that I am a big believer in the notion that form follows function, that there is beauty in functionality. And so as our voices become more and more efficient, as they are more optimized to utilize just the most efficient and beneficial balance of vocal fold engagement and subglottic air pressure, that we can always work towards doing that consistently. But at the end of the day, we're only human. And so whether or not we would ever do it consistently every single time, if that's what we're going to accept as the notion of perfection, then it would only come after such a long period of pursuit. Not that we shouldn't do that. I'm reminded of many of you know I like to quote Pablo Casals around things like this. Pablo Casals, very famous cellist from a generation ago, when asked at the age of 90, he was 90, why do you still practice your scales? And he replied, because I think I'm seeing progress. And I find that so touching, like that it kind of grabs me right in the chest, because I suppose it validates my perspective of what it is to be a musician, which is of constant pursuit. That the notion of mastery is the ability to conceive of something just beyond our ability to manifest it. And so we are left in this perpetual pursuit. And maybe the pursuit is where the perfection comes. I don't know. So I got to scroll back here. Mandy, hello. Garrett, guitar. Hello, Jeff. I want your feedback on performing the exercises. Get in touch via jeffrolka.com or voicelessons.sf. That reminds me. Okay, so Garrett, there are forms. Just fill out the form, send in an email. We'll work it all out. I get those emails. They don't go to some third party. And we'll sort through everything to do that. The site migration is now complete. I mentioned that in a newsletter last week, I think it was. If you personally or anyone with whom you notice in the comments or on Twitter or whatever, if anyone has any problems with the site, please tag me on Twitter or send a message through the website if you would be so kind, because I have a couple weeks to let the company that did the migration know if there are problems, and then beyond that I won't be able to have them fix it. I'll have to somehow figure it out myself or hire someone to do it. So if you see anything or if you have any problems, I had someone who had some download problems this week and I took care of that. And hopefully that's it. I'm hoping that there aren't any more significant problems than that. But if you or anyone else has issues with the website, jeffrolka.com, voicelessonsf.com seems to be functioning just fine, although I haven't sent a test message via the contact sheet. But just let me know, please. I definitely want to make sure that those things get sorted out. On the plus side, once this is all done, I won't have to deal with it for 5 years. That's awesome. So excited. By the way, also, a big thank you. I've mentioned before about supporting the channel by using the links through Amazon. That's been amazing. It's really, really helpful. And I really, really appreciate that. For those of you that are new, I have an Amazon influencer page. It's amazon.com/shop/JeffRolka. And the thing is that if you go through that page or if you use the link that's on jeffrolka.com to go to Amazon, if you're just shopping in general, then a small portion of that will get donated to the channel. And I really, really appreciate it. It really helps, and it's working brilliantly. So thank you, those of you who have been doing that. To that end, I'm actually getting my replacement camera. Should be arriving this coming week. And so we won't have any more out-of-focus videos for the foreseeable future. I know that the videos that were just released a few minutes ago, once again, I thought I had the focus thing fixed, but I didn't. So anyways, that'll be a thing of the past. Drayden, could you please suggest healthy drinking habits, maybe specific drinks? The only specific drink that I can possibly recommend on a daily basis without any sort of caveats of any kind is tepid water. That being said, I have heard of people who have allergic reactions to water. So that may not even be appropriate for you. I don't know. in general, the best thing for your voice is room temperature water, not hot, not cold. If you like to have a glass of wine at night, that sounds like a lovely thing to do. I hope you enjoy it. I would recommend that if you're singing that night, you not have the glass of wine until after you are done singing. Obviously, my opinion on this matter is inconsiderate. No, wait. Is to be set aside. It's not inconsiderate. I don't want to ever be inconsiderate. But your doctor's orders or your healthcare professionals' orders or people like that who are charged with taking care of your health, all of those directives supersede anything I might say. So if you have a problem with that, then you need to make sure that you listen to your doctor. I like to have coffee in the morning. The heat of the beverage is more of an issue than the actual beverage itself. I try not to have it in close proximity to when I'm singing. Some people have sensitivities to milk. Some people have sensitivities to different compounds that are in teas. My advice to you is, of course, with your doctor's consent, so watch out for allergies and things like that. But if you're concerned about their impact on your singing voice, try them on days just before you vocalize and see what the impact is. And if it's negligible, then maybe it's okay to have it on your general day-to-day work or when you're going to be singing critically. If it has a deleterious impact, then don't drink it when you're about to sing. Jay, hello. Ronaldo, hello and thank you. Market Forces, good to see you, Jeff. And likewise. I'm about to switch to another singing teacher. She has more professional standard students. Brilliant. How do I politely close the relationship with my previous teacher? That's a very, very good question. And of course, I have worked with many, many people over the years, and the way that those relationships cease have been, I've experienced any number of different things. What you might say, either in person or if you're doing this via email or over the phone, whatever your preferred mode of conversation is, however you're communicating with them, you might just say, hey, I really appreciate the work that we've done together. I am going to actually switch and study with another individual for a little while. But I hope that, you keep on teaching really well and, just basically appreciating them for the work that you have done in the past. Obviously, if you're really not happy with what you've done, if this isn't just an upgrade, if you're dissatisfied with their service, then say only things that you truly feel and mean. So thank you for the time that we've spent together. Thank you for helping me. If that's true, I really appreciate the time we've spent together, but I'm going to be moving to a different teacher and going from there. From speaking for myself personally, something like that, it's really cool. And I always know that there are times when, the relationship is gonna stay together and we're gonna keep on working together, but there are times when things need to change. Sometimes, people will come off and then come back. I've had that happen on several different occasions. Sometimes things just change. Great question. Singy Mixed Singer Pants. Yo, from Hawaii. Hello. Aloha. David Walsh. Hello. Any thoughts on why so many operatic voices sing more popular or Broadway songs? They sang where they sang Nesidoma. Big and loud. Few seem to temper voice to the music. Anyone? That's a really good question, David. And at the risk of sounding elitist, the operatic voice is not an affectation. That voice, if we were to continue to optimize the usage of our voice, we would arrive ultimately at more of that kind of sound of our voice. But we make concessions to remain in the popular genre. So from the operatic singer's perspective, people who compromise their technique to remain in the like the popular genres aren't utilizing as good of technique as they could. If I hope that makes sense. I'm trying to think of a suitable analogy, but basically, it's like for example, I had a question which I wanted to address about the secondo passaggio, and how do we sing these passages that hover right at the secondo passaggio and go back and forth and back and forth. And the thing is that when we practice our technique, it ceases to be a technique and it becomes the way that we sing. So the opera singer isn't they're not putting on an affectation and being like an opera singer. That is what they have practiced, and so that is how they use their voices. Regarding the secondo passaggio question, this I find interesting and has been coming up quite frequently, and I think it's an interesting idea on how we talk about the break or the secondo passaggio, and that is that if you have a passage that goes, let's say you've got, this is where your secondo passaggio is. You've got notes in a passage that rapidly go back and forth between here, back and forth across the secondo passaggio. How do you navigate this? What are you supposed to do? And there's a certain kind of, I suppose, responsibility that I would collectively include most singing instructors into this, and Karen may disagree, which I don't know, but we talk about the secondo passaggio as this very definitive changeover point, and it's true that it is. It's the point at which we are no longer, we are truly in cricothyroid dominant singing voice, our head voice, if you will. But the reality of making that transition is much more gray. It's not as if we sing thyroarytenoid dominant, thyroarytenoid dominant right up to the point of changeover, and then all of a sudden it flips. It's much grayer than that. So in the entire area of the zona de passaggio, from primo passaggio on the bottom side to secondo passaggio on the top, we're slowly gravitating and changing the equation from thyroarytenoid dominance to cricothyroid dominance. I've used the analogy of a seesaw or teeter-totter in the past, where you've got that fulcrum and you're balancing over it. The only difference here is that the two people playing on the seesaw, one's the primo passaggio, one's the secondo passaggio, and the fulcrum's in the middle. So when we're singing a phrase that goes back and forth across the secondo passaggio like that, if we have practiced our technique and if we have a good foundation there, then it ceases to be this hard transition point. But it's, in some respects, it's even more difficult than that, because we're just really stuck in this gray area, going back and forth with this balancing act between the various dominances between thyroarytenoid and cricothyroid. And so the actual point of transition ceases to be so hard and fast, and in fact it's just more of a balancing and a shifting of weight than we might have when we are initially starting to make a transition over the secondo passaggio. I hope that answers your question. Annette, alto, my voice is shadow because I got Eric reflux and my voice is shadow. I'm not sure exactly what to make of that. Perhaps try retyping that. I think autocorrect may have got the better of you there. Ken, hello. Ronaldo, just saw Cousin Jeff inspired by Bowie, Ziggy style. I mean, I've certainly listened to David Bowie. I'm so, like, I want to say Bowie, and it sounds like I'm a poseur because, I grew up in America and I grew up saying David Bowie, but somehow, living in England for a little while really makes me want to say David Bowie, which is what they say over there. The thing with Bowie is I like to do the deep dive on one song for a while, and then I'll kind of come out of it and do something different. But yes, many of those songs are incredibly inspiring. At Altug, at Clem, delighted to finally catch you. Welcome, Clem. And I don't recall your user ID, but welcome. At Singing Miss Singerpants, at Jeff, don't pass this, Maestro. I didn't pass that. Annette, my voice needs to be trained. Can you train my voice? Get in touch via jeffrolka.com or voicelessonssf.com, and we can sort that all out. Singing Miss Singerpants. Yeah. I scrolled poorly. Where am I? Oh, thank you, JC's Radiant Ray. Whoa. Want to ask about tuning formants. At Singwise Vocals explain this concept beautifully, but I am still wondering how to practice this throughout my range. It's a very interesting question, Singing Mick Singerpants. Specifically on tuning formants, the formants are largely activated primarily by a widening at the rear top of the aural cavity. I'm not sure exactly what you mean by tuning them, though. If you want more of them, or if you're specifically meaning the intonation of the overtones over the fundamental. Would you mind being more specific? The thing is, I'm super far behind already. So let's just say, okay, briefly, if you're wanting to have more of the singer's formants, so by tuning formants, I mean increasing or decreasing the amount of formant, then it becomes a matter of having more lateral widening across the soft palate and the rear top of the aural cavity. Not quite the nasal pharynx, but sort of in that general vicinity, the top rear of the aural cavity. And I'm a fan of like the which is actually in this week's warm-up, so you can practice that there. In terms of tuning the formants, like let's say you are using a strobe, okay, and you can see, like when you use a strobe, the fundamental will have the bottom most. So when a strobe has spinning wheels in it, or the digital equivalents, and the wheels light up according to what partial or what overtone they are of a given fundamental. So when you look at a strobe, let's say you're singing like G, then you would look over at G and you would see the bottom wheel lit up. And then you would look over at and then that strobe would also have another wheel higher up that would be not as brightly illuminated, but would be illuminated, but not as brightly. And it would be either static with the lower wheel, or it might be gravitating one direction or another. The best way that I am aware to tune formants or to tune overtones is not so much to try to consciously adjust them, but to practice singing along and singing unisons and alternate intervals off of a unison. So practice singing in unison with it. Practice the octave. Practice your fifths. Practice your thirds. And when you do that, as you sing it, you will hear the discrepancies between what you are singing and the note. And we have to try to reconcile those differences. Those beats are conflicts in the way that the frequencies resonate. And as you go through that practice, you'll become very, very finely tuned to your intonation, but you'll also be subtly changing how you perceive intonation. Of course, a piano is tuned in even temperament. When we sing, we do not necessarily adhere to that. We often will gravitate towards a pure intonation system. So those thirds that you sing when they're finally free of all beats will in fact be 13.5 cents flat from what it would be if you played it on a piano. If you're singing with a piano, you're not going to do that. You'll stay within the intonation system of the instrument based upon listening to it and such. But in this pure intonation realm, you can become incredibly sensitized to the subtle beats of things. And over time, the overtones over the fundamental will start to come into alignment as well as the fundamental. It's a long process, but well worth doing. And it will have a dramatic impact on your tone as well, as you become so in tuned with the intonation of things. That was kind of a long-winded answer. I hope that's all right. Clem, of course you can improve your range by 2 or 3 notes. How? Good airflow engagement, and depending on where those 2 or 3 notes are, probably some registration event technique. At Singwise Vocals, Sarah, I'm part of a choir that only has bass, tenor, alto, soprano. And though I believe I'm a mezzo-soprano, I sing the soprano parts, but I was wondering if it's unhealthy and harming my vocal cords. Quite likely not. The thing to pay attention to is whether you're straining or not. If you are straining, then back off a little bit and maybe just blend a little bit more. Don't strain your voice. Furthermore, make sure you're really staying engaged and keeping your air flowing really, really well. It's easy to relax in a choral setting, and that will definitely fatigue you. But you should be okay. Obviously, it depends a lot on the repertoire and what the choral director is asking you to do. Naruto, good. Insert proper time here. Yes. Morning. How can I train my chest voice? When I do a lip trill, I get stuck on C4. I would either hurt myself or get a pharyngeal falsetto. Well, I'm not sure exactly how you should be. I don't know. You'll have to forgive me. I don't know if you're male or female or anything like that. If you're working towards aligning your chest voice, I mean, unless you're a soprano, that would be getting on the low side, I think, as a starting place for some sopranos. But most other, and if you're a baritone, that's a little bit too high. So the thing is if you want to work in your chest voice, start in the most comfortable, most absolute middle of your range, and then work on vowel alignment and airflow from there, and then work your way outwards from there, both down and up. When it comes time to start going up above the secondo passaggio, the practice that you have done there in alignment of vowels will be incredibly helpful. Alto. Alto, great question. I'm more familiar with voce chiusa. I would have to just, I would want to have a look at both of those terms to make sure I understand them correctly before I started to go off on it here. But I'm happy to make a note of it and take care of it next time. Ronaldo, the speech about perfection, nailed it. Goosebumps. Brilliant. Excellent. Hello, Karina. Welcome. Thank you, Ronaldo. I really appreciate that. Karina Chen and everybody here. Mandy, Jeff, that quote just got me as well. Been a singer for my whole life. Someone asked why I still wanted to do voice lessons. I told them because I never want to stop learning. That's what I'm talking about. I never want to stop or not be excited by the prospect of learning something new. Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm reminded of the words of the 21st century sage Ben Folds, if you're familiar with Ben Folds. There's always someone cooler than you. Is the thing to remember. There's always someone cooler than you. You know, we're all on this path. Just some of us are in different spaces and somewhat different areas of the path. And some people like kind of go off on this area of the path for a little while, and that's pretty cool. And you learn a bunch of things, and you come back to a different area. Cool. Yeah. Cool. Noob Gamer. I follow your videos, so I don't know what technique I'm using, but I am sure it's not belting. My voice has dropped only 2 years ago. My range is A4 to F2 on a good day. How can I expand my range, lows and highs? Goodness. The bottom area. Okay, so I generally speak in context of consistent phonation. So the idea would be that the tone of your voice remains consistent from its lowest note through its highest note. Now, there's going to be some subtle shifting, but in general, it's easily recognizable as the same vocalist. As it happens, the range that you've quoted there is really, really nicely consistent with the baritone vocalist's range. I don't know if you're really a baritone. I have not heard you sing. I'm just saying that corresponds to it quite nicely, assuming a really good transition over the secondo passaggio, though that A4 is getting on towards the next registration event, and that could be part of what's holding you up on the top end. The bottom end, going much below that, unless you're a bass, is going to start sounding different from your normal mode of phonation. And that may, in fact, be the bottom note that you have that remains consistent with the rest of your sound. If you're not bothered by that, and you don't mind a little inconsistency or something different, then you can try abducting the vocal fold, allowing some air to seep over it, and kind of heading down that a ways. It gets a bit kind of airy and can eventually get sort of Cookie Monster-like. But, never hurts to try stuff out. If it hurts, don't do it. Stop. On the top side, I would highly recommend you check out the super lip trill. There's a brief stint of that in the diaphragmatic warm-up, and it's also in the lip trill madness video, I think. And I really like that in terms of developing appropriate subglottic air pressure to make a smooth transition over the next registration event, which is about where that would be if, in fact, you are a baritone vocalist. Additionally, you might use the pentatonic. There's a pentatonic warm-up video, but don't do the vowels. Do the super lip trill with it. I think I do that in the video, but if not, just don't do the vowels. Do the super lip trill there. I really, really like the pentatonic scales for range development. There's something about easily remembering the sound of it, the alternating stepwise motion and skipwise motion, I find to be incredibly beneficial towards range development. Mandy. Oh, wait, I already read that. Karina. Hello, it's Stryker at Mandy. Brenda, I sing that I'm the first total laryngectomy to sing. If I'm reading that correctly, I am led to believe that you've had your larynx removed, but you sing. That is, I'm sorry that you had that happen, but I'm really glad that you're still singing. That's incredible. Congratulations. Removed. JC's Rainy Ray at all. Thank you, JC's Rainy Ray. I really appreciate that. Altug, do baritones sing the A2 as nothing, or do they achieve it with practice? Most baritone vocalists I know sing an A2 fairly effortlessly, but not necessarily in a connected fashion. In other words, it doesn't, when they first start their vocal training, it doesn't necessarily have a consistent sound with the rest of their range. But one might say that of virtually any vocalist. That's the whole notion of vowel alignment and the beginnings of things. What I would say, too, is that even no matter what, baritones, tenor, or otherwise, gravitating towards the center of the thyroarytenoid dominant singing voice in the early days of vocal practice, and I am thinking of this more in terms of a new singer, not as a trained baritone, gravitating towards the center tends to be more efficient and a faster way to get them going so that you can move towards melismatic singing. I believe it's a combination not only of ease of phonation in that range, but also putting things closer to where they mostly hear them. So as we, like ear training is easier in the middle of our ranges, and it's a little bit more challenging in the initial stages of it as we move outside of those ranges. And I haven't read that much on that. That was something that was repeated to me in university, and I personally have experienced it that way, but I do not have the actual like vetted information as to why that would be. But I've been led to believe that it's largely due to the fact that it's easier for us to perceive and interpret intervallic information when it's in the range of our speaking voices. If that needs to be clarified in non-music speak, please let me know and I will happily do so. Naruto. Also, how can I make my voice stronger? I can hit all the way to C5, not with the best technique, in a very whiny mix. Balance, 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 balance. If you want power and resonance and strength, focus on balance. And that means adequate subglottic air pressure to vocal fold engagement. It's not about hitting notes. You won't hear me say, I can hit this note very frequently. I sort of grudgingly do it from time to time because the notion, when I hear someone say, I can hit this note, in my mind I hear, I can sometimes sing that note, but I never know when it's going to happen or what it's going to sound like. That's not particularly useful for us. I mean, let's take it to the extreme. Sorry, I'm talking really quickly today. I don't mean to, but I guess I'm just sort of in an excitable kind of frame of mind. I'm getting a little dehydrated. Let's take that to the extreme. Let's say you're a performing artist. Let's say, well, I mean, look at it this way. Would anyone buy Sam Smith's records if every time he went for an A above middle C, you never knew if it was going to come out, or maybe 80% of the time it didn't? What percentage is acceptable? If it's 50% of the time, I mean, I probably wouldn't listen to that vocalist if it were half the time they were hitting the right notes. Would I listen to that vocalist if they were hitting the right notes 75% of the time? Probably not. I mean, the standard in popular music production these days is to tune and retune everything and make it sound like it hasn't been tuned, by the way. So the market, what we listen to, is beyond human. Like it's more perfect and more precise than what humans typically do. So why should we be able to like kind of only happenstance hit a note from time to time or sing a note kind of randomly? Focus on balance, focus on subglottic air pressure, work to expand your range over time. Singing Mix Singer Bands, PA in the house. I do have a PA, but I'm not currently using it. I'm not sure what that in like Pennsylvania? Are you from Pennsylvania? That's cool. At Altug, at Karina. Carolina, make music. Hi, hello from Sweden. Hello. Dwayne, hello, Dwayne. At Stryker, at Altug. Market Forces, thanks, Jeff. Yes, I have had a few small service problems, but he has really helped my confidence and got me started on my journey. That's awesome. So yeah, definitely, like, if you're still there, Market Forces, he definitely, like, I think an expression of gratitude and thanks is truly, I think it's a very nice thing to do. And it is my hope, if you were telling that to me, I would, I would absolutely be gracious and applaud your decision and congratulate you on what you were doing and let you know that, you can always ask me questions via email or whatever. It's all good. We all kind of keep going. I think that's great. At Stryker, at Altug. Subal, hello, Jeff. Thanks for the lesson videos and doing live sessions. You're very welcome. Welcome to you, by the way. If you're still there, I don't recall seeing your ID before. Thank you for joining us. At Stryker. Ronaldo, Freddie Mercury, loud versus Michael Jackson. Soft, both great. There you go. Dwayne, great improvements being made, both head and chest ranges blended. Well done, Dwayne. Giuseppe, hello, and good morning to you. Good evening to you. Natasha, hey, can a person singing be influenced by how long they can hold their breaths? Okay, so in the whoa, Where was I? There's nothing to suggest. I mean, that's a very interesting question, Natasha. I find that very interesting. There is nothing to suggest that doing. Okay, so you haven't asked this question, but the first thing that comes to mind is the notion of like holding one's breath or singing really long notes in the expectation that we're going to elongate our phrases, like create greater phrase lengths. There's nothing to suggest that is true. The main concern I have for what you're asking there is that if you're holding your breath and using the epiglottis to kind of hold the breath down, instead of holding it by holding a muscularly open position, that you can really get used to that epiglottic closure there. And that's not necessarily going to be helpful in your breathing technique for singing. But I mean, if you're thinking like, and now I'm just thinking like maybe you're like a swimmer. I don't know if you're a swimmer or not, but I know that when I was on the swim team in high school, we used to often have to do like underwater lengths. So we'd have to get in and go 50 yards, 25 yards underwater. And sometimes I could go all the way there and back. So I could do 50 yards underwater, which for me was really good. Other people could go way further. And I don't know that there was any kind of long-term problems with that. But maybe I know I'm not going to get to every question today, and I'm really sorry about that. Do pop them for those if you're near the bottom of the chat and you can see where I'm scrolled back up to. Just put them in the comments. Put your questions in the comments, and I will answer them after we're done here. I always have to go grocery shopping after this. That's what I do after we do this. But yeah, tell me more, Natasha, and perhaps I can offer more insight into that. Naruto, is it possible to sing a song without changing the key, but just dropping or raising the octave? Of course. Notes sound very similar to the yeah. I mean, it's not gonna. Most people, I don't know. It depends on the song. But certainly, you can certainly just drop an octave if that is, it's all in the appropriate range for you. One thing about that to consider is that if, like sometimes the verse will be in a comfortable range, but the chorus won't be, and so you'll drop the octave on the chorus. And one consequence of that can be that the chorus tessitura is beneath the verse, and that is extremely unusual for popular music. Extremely unusual to the point that it's almost never done. So it would be ideal to drop all of it an octave, rather than only a section of it. JC's Radiant Ray at Pro Audio Rev. Natasha, in the way of how long they can hold a note. Oh, I kind of did address that. Sorry. Janet 2A. Hi, Jeff. I love this meetup. Saturday, 6 p.m. in UK. Thank you. I don't suppose you can link with Amazon UK. I am, in fact, an affiliate with the Amazon UK as well. And what I will do is I will amend I'll put that link on the website as well. And it'll be under, I think there's a tab for support or something like that on jeffrolka.com. If there isn't, I'll make that page and I'll list out the different ways that you can do that. But that would be incredibly helpful, and I really appreciate that. And pretty soon I'll be able to use this one link system. I should be able to use that now, but I'm a little bit reluctant to implement it before I'm certain that the website migration is in fact all good. At Altug, at JC's Radiant Ray, Ken, I try to hold my breath, releasing gradually for 1 minute as an exercise. Cool. Ronaldo, Maestro, if a student is at 7, can you make him or her a 9? Okay, so the philosopher in me says the only person who can make that individual a 9 is themselves. So I'm not in the business of making anyone anything. I provide observations, critical listening, exercises, advice, and modes of working on things. But you have to actually do it. And that's I think, a very significant part of the thoughts here that have to go into this. You'll notice I don't say like my client. I sometimes say my client sessions, but most often say our lessons. Like if you ever had a lesson with me, you would see in my correspondence I would say our lessons. We're learning together. I'm learning about your voice, and I'm learning about how you learn and how you can best move forward. And I can give you, that's what lessons are. I give you that information. I give you those observations. We try to have you either validate those observations with your internal experiences or shed new light on them, so that actually, no, they're a little bit different than that. I was a little bit off, and this is really what's happening here. And that moves us forward. But you have to do the practicing. You have to do the singing. The person who is a 7 that wants to be a 9 has to want it. And sometimes that means evaluating, just general evaluation. Maybe it means getting lessons. So in a way, it's a team effort, is what I'm trying to say. Is it possible that the person who's a 7 would never get to being a 9 without working with me? No, of course they could. It's entirely possible. Could I help them get there more quickly? Probably. But I would like to say. But I don't want to sound immodest. So I guess I just said it. So maybe, I mean, I am a very, very careful observer of the singing voice, and I have a great deal of passion for teaching and delivering information that is correct and is helpful. That's why I know some of the stuff I talk about on the channel, I use like muscular terms and things like that, and I know that can present a certain gateway that has to be crossed. I don't talk in terms of the sort of conventional wisdom of singing, because I find it confusing. It confused me for a long time, and it wasn't until I started to dig a little deeper that I began to understand and really truly made progress that got my voice to where I thought it really should be. So anyways, I've been like really like loquacious, really talking a lot today. I'm going to try and get through as much of this as I can. Again, please put them in the comment section if you would. Ronaldo, JC Ranieri, New Year's Eve, my team sang about 10 songs from 10 p.m. to 1 a.m. During one of the songs, the instrumentalists dropped, saying the 4 vocalists were singing in the key of Z. How does that happen? What can I do to help myself, the other vocalists, and the band? Jesus. Gosh, that's just not helpful, is it? I mean, okay, so there's a couple things that occur to me here. I mean, if the vocalists were in fact together, singing parts or in unison, they were together, but had strayed so far from the tonality of the band, then I immediately begin to question the monitoring situation and whether or not everybody could adequately hear one another. If you cannot hear one another, then you're kind of flying on hope and a prayer, which, sometimes works okay. But that very quickly that becomes no one's fault. If, as an accompanist, if I have a vocalist who's shifting keys, then I consider it my job, my task to shift keys with them. So I'm not going to just drop out. I'm going to find where you are. That may require some hunting around, but that's what I'm supposed to be there to do, to accompany you. In the context of a band and singers, yes, of course, we'd like it to be a group effort, but ultimately, I feel like it's the band's job to follow the singers if they should make a migration to key. I realize how difficult that would be in a band context. It would be incredibly difficult. Even with professional musicians, it would be challenging to do that. But that's a very interesting question, and I don't know that I've shed a whole lot of light on it. But on the plus side, dropping out, that's the age-old advice. When in doubt, lay out. So I think that's a good thing that they did that. I don't think it's very helpful that they said the key of Z. I find that to be somewhat flippant and just not productive, but maybe it wasn't meant in a bad way. I don't know. Can you suggest apps for vocal exercises? There's been a couple apps I've tried out. I was thinking about doing an app a couple years ago, and so I was doing all these different apps, just kind of checking them out. There's one I think that's kind of okay, which is Errol. I think it's Errol's, ERROL''S. But that's all I remember of the name of the app. I'm sure if you type that into like your search, it'll come up. It was actually, if it's still out there, it would probably be a fairly comprehensive resource because they had all kinds of modules and things like that were available at a fee. But I think they kind of gave it up as a business, and so they just released everything through the App Store, so you could just get the whole enchilada if you like. But the thing with these apps that I find somewhat challenging is that the Errol app had a meter that you could watch. I think it's much better to ignore the meter and use your ears to listen along while you're singing. Also, speaking for myself, I find it very tempting to always want to sing to the ultimate extent of my range when I'm using those apps, and often the app will take it upon itself to facilitate that, and that's not always necessarily the best mode of practice on any given day. So check it out, see if you like it. I don't know if it's still available or not, but that was a good one. Carolina, make me music. Thank you for your amazing videos. You're very welcome. You've helped me so much. Wonderful. Do you have an example of a good exercise to develop singing smoothly through notes? God, how I arrange want my tone to be smoother and nicer. Yeah, there's a couple on the channel that are like improve your tone and things like that. You might also do, I don't know if I've done a long tone warm-up. But that might be something to do as well. I feel like I have, but I'd have to look for it. Also, if you want to work on, wanting to work on tone and connectivity in legato, then you might start by limiting yourself just for maybe a portion of your practice period. Just limiting yourself to, say, up to the secondo passaggio and not quite over it, and being really, really focused on engagement and airflow. That is what is going to facilitate the connection from vowel to vowel as you sing melismatically through the different phrases. If you're finding that changing vowels is making it more disjointed in the melismatic phrase, then consider just sticking to one vowel, regardless of what the exercise is calling for in the video. Just thinking. Probably one of the new daily warm-up, I think, had some stuff. There was also, there was one video that was messa di voce inspired exercises. You might have a look at that too. That might be a very helpful video. At Stryker, the show must go on. Lawrence Wilson, I have trouble singing in the mask. Can you be more specific? I can actually. I know. I'm asking you to be more specific, but I know I'm not going to have time to get to the specificities of it while I clear up these other answers here. There is a video. There's at least 1 or 2 videos that I've done on singing in the mask. If you mean, if what you mean by singing in the mask that you are not able to have the brilliance in your voice, like you don't have enough of the singer's formant in your voice, try the video I released today. That video is meant to work on tone balancing and resonance, and the combination of consonant vowel syllables I'm using are part of an exercise program that are on singers on the singer's formant, on practicing with that. That might help. And maybe and let me know how that goes, or leave me a comment, or leave a comment in this. Pardon me, in this video, once it's released to YouTube, and I can talk more about it. Striker King, that's pretty much what the video this week is doing. Thank you, Singy McSinger Pants. You're welcome. Retracted. At Striker. You're welcome, Clem. At Striker. Singwise Vocals, thanks. I can only stay for the first half hour of these live streams while my daughter's in dance class. See you next week. Hey! So you wrote that like 20 minutes ago. Gosh, I'm horribly behind. Well, Karen's gone, but thank you, Karen. It's always lovely to see you pop up. At Jason Ray. At Singwise Vocals. Love your videos as well. At Singwise. At Clem. Hello, Karen. Striker. Striker, you can always just go like that. At Naruto. And finally, able to understand. Mohammed, how do I know my Passaggio? I hear a major change in sound between F4 and G4. Yep. It's quite likely your secondo passaggio is there, but it takes a little bit of practice to really make sure that's in fact correct. I really, really don't like to generalize on that, because it depends on so many different things, whether or not that's truly the secondo passaggio, or if you're just pushing thyroarytenoid to that point and then it kind of flips off. Adrian, this isn't really what I do here. This is about answering your questions. And at this point, I've also been talking for an hour. I do mention singing something for you guys from time to time. And I need to figure out a venue to do that. Cause like on Twitter, I had a lesson, I was teaching a lesson. I was in a lesson with someone yesterday, and they turned me on. I can't believe I'm so late to the party on this one, on Keen, the band Keen, Keane. And like when I started listening to their tunes, I was like, oh yeah, I know that song. But I'm like, man, I never like really listened to them. And so I learned Is It Any Wonder yesterday, which was, I assume it was one of their hits. I don't know. I recognized the tune. It was so much fun, and I had so much fun singing it. But I need to figure out a better way to do that. I would love to sing for you all. I would love to sing something. It's just that this isn't the venue for that. Let me think about that. Singing makes me physician's assistant, so I can help with medical questions. Oh, this is true. It's not terribly practical, but that's very cool. Thank you. Mohammed, my voice gets a lot headier at G4 while it sounds chestier at F4. Again, like, yes, that sounds like it's probably about right, but I don't want to generalize without really going through it. And again, too, if it could be that the actual secondo passaggio is lower than that, you're just pulling it up to F4. I don't know without aligning the vowels in the thyroarytenoid dominant singing voice and really working through the area of the secondo passaggio to narrow down where it's going to be. At Mohammed, bright light sound 16. Consider myself an upcoming tenor. Don't know if your voice is still going to change or not. If it's already changed, I'd say it's unlikely. At Striker. Natasha, the reason I'm asking about the breathing is because when I started running again, it feels like I can't hold a note as long as I used to. And I also have... Natasha, if possible, I would see your doctor about that. That's my advice to you. I would see your doctor about that, because that sounds weird. It sounds a bit suspicious. I don't know that there's any correlation. I don't know that there's anything wrong, but I would go see a doctor. And band leaders, I mean, hopefully, if they've got good vowel alignment, then the phrase lengths get quite long. It's true. Thank you, Mandy. I really appreciate that. My life, and I don't work with other coaches. Never got the level of improvement that I have with you. I genuinely have experienced so much improvement this past year that blew my mind. Thank you so much, Mandy. I really appreciate that. I really appreciate that. At Mandy Cummins. And at Jason Rainy Ray, hit enter too early. Wonderful. Or wait, I don't know if you're talking about me or not. I don't know. Someone's bass baritone warm-ups are strikers' favorites. Whoa, wonder what that was. At Mandy, at Altug, at Mandy. I see something about the app. Oh, I didn't know Altug had an app. That's so cool. Errol Singer Studio, that's the one. I use that app. A little pricey. Oh, they're still charging for that. No, good. Can do things we cannot. It seems strange that we were together in our harmony parts, but they could not follow. Well, that's what I'm saying. If you migrate in the sort of spaces in between keys, then that could be problematic. But that then means like either the vocalists aren't listening to the band or you can't hear the band, both of which obviously are problematic. At JC's Radiant Ray, goodness me, thank you for reminding me. Sequencer is the online Facebook group that many people here, post videos and singing and answer questions and things like that. Goodness me, Sequencer, a global voice. If you look for it on Facebook, just send in a request and I'll okay you and you can join the fun. Goodness me, at Heidi, at JC Ray, at Heidi, at JC's Radiant Ray. And I think I've actually got the bottom. That's amazing. Thank you all. Thank you, everybody. Given like a second or two. Yeah, okay, so Natasha, that's not that long in the grand scheme of things. At Heidi. Everyone, it's time for me to go. But thank you so much for an awesome live event. I'll be making some updates to the website. So if you're in the UK and you're shopping at Amazon, there'll be a link that you can click through, and a small portion of that sale will go to the channel. Nothing else will be different. It's just that. Thank you so very, very much, everybody, for joining me and the group today. I really appreciate it. Always so much fun. And take really good care of your voices. Enjoy singing. And hopefully I'll see you either here next week or on the comment section or in Twitter or in Sequencer. Bye, everybody.